Hi folks, thank you so much for being patient with me. My travel plans kind of went out the window, and so I haven't been able to do the video until basically now. So that means you've had a little bit of extra time to finish this stuff for the week. By now you should have read Frankenstein Volume 2, and you should have watched Spelunking in the Uncanny Valley, and also had a chance to read Griffin's Spare and Found Parts Chapter 1. This one in particular, we're not going to read the whole thing. This is the only part of it that we're reading, although I would suggest reading the whole thing if you are interested in it and you like the writing. And the purpose of that was basically to give you a comparison between different accounts of creation of a non-human, humanesque sort of entity, and that relationship between the creator and the creation itself. So what you see in Spare and Found Parts, right, is this kind of immediate sense of love or loyalty or dedication and trust on the creation's part for the creator. And in Frankenstein, right, we see that going in kind of a different direction, where maybe that was the relationship that the creature would have had with its creator, but you know, his creator ran off and abandoned him to pretty much a completely miserable experience. And so what we have in this section of the book is what I think of as actually one of the best parts of the whole novel, is finally we get to hear the monster's story. We get to hear his experiences from his perspective, and up until this point, we're mostly seeing the world through Frankenstein's eyes, right? And his kind of almost immature perspective at times. Basically, I mean, who could create something like a sentient being and then just run off and then be like, oh, this I hope it doesn't catch up with me. He for being something of a genius and maybe an evil genius at times, he is makes a lot of weird decisions regarding his creation, regarding the potential for things to go bad. um and right, a lot of that in the book is sort of related to or associated with emotional turmoil and stuff like that. But I think that this part of the book in particular draws a really interesting sort of contrast between the emotional psychological maturity of the monster versus his creator, right? And if you look at the kinds of types of reason and types of emotional appeals that the monster is using when he finally tells his story, it seems to me at least that he is actually significantly more mature and significantly more logical and reasonable than his creator in almost every way. So that's one of the things I found really interesting about this. I also find it really interesting to see him come to terms with his situation, right, as basically an eternal exile from humanity. Him coming to terms um, with the fact that he is human-like but not quite human, and the ways that that takes shape in being both physically superior as well as um, where his physical superiority, his ability to sustain himself on less food and coarser foods, his ability to move um much faster and with more agility and strength, his ability to withstand cold and heat, all these kinds of things are really interesting, alongside the fact that his physicality is also the point at which he is considered to be most monstrous. His reasoning is human, his emotions are human, his voice is human, right? There's all these human qualities to him, and it's sort of the appearance of his body is the single reason that he can't, and even just like in an aesthetic sense, like aesthetically, he's hideous, and his hideousness, despite all of his other points of superiority or equality with human beings, is the only reason that he can't join human society. And I think that's a really interesting part of this story, and it's interesting to see the way that the creature reckons with that. Yeah, so I think that is really the most interesting section of the book, is seeing the creature account for his situation, seeing him detail his relationship to humans as a whole, and in particular to Frankenstein, his creator. And I would like to hear what you guys have to say about that. Also, I would be really interested to hear more about what you guys think of the types of logic that he is using here in terms of impressing upon Frankenstein that Frankenstein has a kind of like duty to him to create a second monster, right? So there is this kind of like interesting thing here where he's like, oh yes, I am miserable, but you have to make another one of me so that we can basically live in exile, hated by humanity together. And that's an interesting solution to the problem that Frankenstein agrees to. So, what do you make of that? And what do you make in particular of this section here, where he is discussing the way the way that rage and anger and hatred moved him to do things that he would not have otherwise done. So that's where we're at with that right now. I'm probably going to do the same format in the next videos, where I'm going to have the Kindle book pulled up so I can kind of like point out specific sections for you guys. If there's issues with that, or you guys have requests, let me know. And really quickly, let's talk about this coming week, right? You'll begin reading Frankenstein Volume 3, right? That'll need to be done by Friday. You have your discussion board post on Monday, right? Keep reading Frankenstein, and basically that's it. Like for week 4, you're reading Frankenstein, you're doing your discussion board posts, and you're finishing Frankenstein. When you finish it, you'll also read from the same book, Introduction to Frankenstein. And I really wanted to save this until after you'd finished reading it, to get your perspective on that. So it kind of didn't influence your reading, but it's good to read afterwards. If you don't have the copy that I'm using, let me know and I'll upload a PDF for you. Okay. I think that's it. I think that is it for now. So, if you have questions, send me an email or message me on Remind. Okay? Alright. I will see you guys soon.